Labels, 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 labels. So if I label myself a person who doesn't like labels, I've just labeled myself. So hopefully you can see the double bind um, of labeling. And so I'm going to tell you my story on how I came to not want to be attached to labels, and why. And I will say it's humiliation has got me to understand that. And I'll tell you why. I, from a very young age, have always wanted to be a benevolent force in this world. And for many years, it was believing that Christianity was the best way to be in the world. For a long time, I was a conservative. I wanted to be in a benevolent force. That was the way to be the best benevolent force in the world. And then I became a liberal because I thought that liberalism was the way to be the most benevolent force. And what I realized was that I took on and I owned these labels. And through my own experience of paying attention to my shadow side, of my unconscious, um, I realized that there are shadow sides to conservatism. There is shadow side to taking on a label like Christianity. There's a shadow side to taking on liberal, being liberal. There's a shadow side to taking on being vegan. There's a shadow side, basically, to anything, to any label or construct that we put together as humans, and I'll kind of unpack that a little bit more conceptually. Because the point of this is how do we get ourselves out of the double bind? Because I'm bound because people want to know my labels because then they can assimilate whether or not they are on the same belief system as I am. So so in the way that I am, I'm extremely complex, not to myself, but to everybody else, because I consider part of myself is Christian, part of myself is conservative, part of myself is liberal, part of myself is spiritual. Even spirituality is a label that I once liked to hang, you know. So here, how do I operate? Because it's very difficult because everybody wants to know who I am. And what I had to do is become very patient because the first thing you do is like you yell at people and say, I don't want to be labeled. I don't put me into a box. And it's like, and that doesn't work because people don't understand that. Because our the vast majority of our culture operates under the definitions of all of these different labels. Um, and they don't even realize the unconsciousness of that is they don't understand the double bind that they're in and the fact that it's ironic. Like their mission is so ironic. That's why parody is so easy in politics, is because people will label themselves and then they just don't even pay attention that there's a shadow side to their mission under that label. So how does the shadow side happen? Okay, we have to understand that these labels are constructs that we created as humans. Let's take economies. Nobody throughout human history walked into a cave. There's plants that grow, that's just natural. We can sit and we can observe nature, and these things are happening, and there are functions going on around us. And there's a harmony to it. Science understands this and shows how, ecology works and how rhythms and all of these things. But nobody walked into a cave, turned over a rock, and went, oh my God, look what I just found. I just found capitalism. It's a naturally occurring thing here. No, capitalism is an idea. Socialism is an idea that we created. Communism is an idea. There's all of these ideas and constructs that we've created. So the interesting thing that we can separate, I mean, we have all these other these ideas that make us different than other beings. And I would say the biggest thing is that we were gifted or cursed, depending on how you want to look at it, the ability to imagine the world differently. So the most salient understanding of this is there are we can observe in science these natural rhythms within the earth. So, how soil works with plants, and then plants die, and then they put their nutrients in the ground, and then rain comes, and we have all of these cycles, and we can see how these naturally occurring systems work. Well, we can also observe archetypally how the rhythms of the world work. We can see archetypally how different behaviors, patterns that come through. Probably the most salient understanding of this is Disney movies. Why do people connect with Disney movies? It's because Disney has perfected archetypal instances that we connect with on a soul level, on a deeper level, not in like the thing that we can rationalize in our mind, but we see these rhythms and they're a natural function of human behavior. So they give us the evil stepmother archetype, and all of these, and it's always this archetype beating this archetype. So there are these naturally occurring patterns within the universe. We have the ability to bend those patterns to make them fit. And then we can use the word should. And we can start saying that person should act like this. They should do this. They should be better than this. And we can do this. And what we're doing is we're taking these naturally occurring rhythms and patterns, and we are taking them and bending them to fit what we believe. So this whole idea of racism is really just hey, it's our ability as humans to go, they're doing humaning wrong. So in our logical mind, we can turn our minds around so that we can make us righter than they are. If they have darker skin, that makes them wrong because they're not picking the proper way to be. And that's just the basis of stereotyping. So let's get back to labeling with that then, is that anytime that we've created a function of a label that we put ourselves under, there's a really highly likely that we took some things that we didn't really understand or we didn't like, that was a little uncomfortable for us. It's kind of like, temperature. If it gets a little too hot, we're like, oh, we need to fix that. Let's get some air conditioning over here to right it. And it's like, when we built these constructs, when we built this idea of spiritual, being conservative, being vegan, whatever label you want to give yourself, there's a really good chance that these natural rhythms were bent in order to make it work for us better. Like, so it kind of, we can imagine this better idea. And then we will fight tooth and nail to make it right. The problem is if we want this world to be more peaceful, I would say, and harmony, as we watch nature, and nature has a balancing act. It's always balancing itself. Yes, in some moments, it's chaotic and it seems extremely violent, but it always comes back to a homeostasis. It's kind of like it depends on what level you look at. You can have peace outside of your body, and you're just like, oh yeah, look at that, I managed my got my relationships down, I've got my home where I want, I'm comfy here, everything seems very peaceful to me. And then you consider, oh gosh, the best way and the only way to be in the world is to have peace and harmony. Well, at the moment that you're making all of this up in your mind, inside of your body is this huge battle going on, chaos, where you've got white blood cells racing around trying to eat and destroy um, invaders, germs within our body. And so we've got chaos going inside in order to have harmony on the outside. And that's just the natural rhythm. The thing is we have this ability to believe that we know what harmony is. Probably my favorite example of this is I've seen we just love ladybugs. And, they show like there's this cartoon where they show like a ladybug on a flower, and it's just somebody looking at it and going, oh my gosh, it's so peaceful. And then there was and next to it is another image of a ladybug just taking aphids and ripping their heads off, and aphid guts all over the place. And it's just that's the reality of the world that we have to deal with. So it's like, how do I manage labels now? What I did is I was hit cosmically hard with the humility stick, because I was championing the shadow side of the labels that I was under. So how do I consider myself now? How do you navigate without labels? And the thing is, just really shortly is, why do we have belief systems? We have belief systems because we woke up spinning on a speck of dust in infinite space. We don't know what the hell we're doing here, and fear drives us. And so we grab on to something to believe in, because otherwise, if we just let go and we have nothing to believe in, we have no guide wire in how to do all of this. We will then become a project by the wind of the culture and other people's psychology, and that's scary. So how do I manage this? Well, I had to overcome a lot of fear. I had to deal with the humiliation that came to me of realizing I had championed the shadow side of a lot of these labels. And so now what it is, I have my own belief systems and my value systems. But the thing is I've worked so hard to find my own guidance system, and now now I can just barely hold on to a belief system. So that what I mean is that I'm constantly now monitoring what I'm unconscious of. And if ever I see that belief system is taking me in a direction where it's not going to put me in a place to be a benevolent force in this world, I can let go of it immediately and move somewhere else. And how do I manage this relationship? Well, I don't usually give out. People will label me. That's just a normal occurrence because most of our culture is based upon this dualistic idea that you either have to be conservative or liberal. It's like, no. I still see beauty in the conservative gym, and I didn't let go of that light. I see beauty in the liberal gym, and I haven't let go of that light. The thing is that if somebody calls me a conservative or somebody calls me a liberal, I know that they're just trying to compact me into a static representation of me and categorize me within their mind. And I'm not angry with that. I'm just not interested. It's not interesting. I'm interested in opening insight, and that's what this website's about.